So whilst we have Michael and Daniel here, I thought we'd just wrap up with the gold cards. I think we'll start off with a pretty consensus top pick, an absolute first pick bomb. This is the Regisaur Alpha, 5 mana 4/4. Other dinosaurs you control have haste. When it enters the battlefield, makes a 3/3 trample dinosaur token. The only way to make this thing better would be to give itself haste. What do we think, guys? Absolute bomb of a card. Can't believe they printed something like this. A huge upgrade on Samut for sure.
I mean, if you get 2 of these, the other one does get haste, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I don't know what else you can say.
Yeah. This card just reminds me of like Broodmate Dragon.
Yeah.
And I played when Broodmate Dragon was around. That card was insane. Just take this card always, every time. If you take it, probably winning.
Yeah, for sure.
If you play it, you win.
And like only 1 red, 1 green as well. Like, so it's not even that hard to cast. Yeah, like not even to splash, but just to get off. Like the fact that it's not, double red, double green and 1, or even in Naya like Gishath, like just amazingly costed, statted card. Shapers of Nature. This looks like a pretty solid mana sink. Just 1 green, 1 blue, 1 generic, and obviously we're seeing the Simic Merfolk now in Ixalan. I really do like that you've got the put a +1/+1 counter on a creature, and as well as being able to take something off a creature. It is only that you control though, but you can draw a card. Pretty solid 3/3 for 3 with a lot of upside, I would think.
Yeah, pretty good. 3 to cost 3/3 is the body is fine. It's great for late game, and this format does seem pretty grindy.
Yep.
So the longer this stays out, the more value you're getting out of it. Drawing cards is always good. Putting counters on stuff makes them bigger, as that's mats for you. And yeah.
Yeah, this card existed in the last format as well. In Hour of Devastation, there was a card that gave creatures +1/+1 until end of turn.
Yeah.
This one just puts counters on them straight up. So strict upgrade, can never go wrong.
Call to the Feast, white-black sorcery that gives us 3 1/1 white vampire creature tokens. They all grab lifelink. I really like this card. I think for 4 mana for 3 guys is a very solid investment. We saw some ways that you can go wide earlier in some of the videos with, especially some of the white cards or even some of the red cards. That could be a little bit of a problem for this in terms of clearing the tokens that you're making. But going wide with a lifelink strategy, I think is something that we'll see a lot of in the pre-release. What are your thoughts, Daniel?
Well, just got to say one thing. 3 dudes, seriously. Just a throwback to Evan Owen. But yeah, this card's amazing. I mean, making 3/1/1 white, life-linking vampires, you can't ask for much more. They chump, you pump them, and they get in for damage.
It's pretty good. 3/1/1s, has been said. 3 guys is always good.
And uncommon as well. Yeah. So you're going to see this card.
You might even pick up 1 or 2. If there's vampires, your kind of vampire synergies, you want this to work with that.
And even if you don't have the vampire synergy, this is just a solid 3 blockers that you can throw up that net you a bit of life back. So I like this card. Vraska, and we'll look at the first Planeswalker from Ixalan. +2, create a token, so obviously a way to protect itself. The token has Menace as well, which is always nice. The -3 takes out an artifact, creature, or an enchantment. Plus it creates you a treasure token, which you can obviously sack for mana. I don't think you're going to get to the -10 in the limited game, but target player's life total becomes 1. Pretty interesting Planeswalker. You guys happy to see Vraska back in Ixalan? What are your thoughts on the pirate?
It's good to have Vraska back.
Yeah.
The first ability, it comes in at 6 loyalty, which is pretty high.
Yep. 6 for 6.
Yeah, you get +2. +2 is very important because it really gets Vraska pretty strong. I think it's actually, there's a lot of times you will actually be able to cast the ulti. You make 2 pirates, bring them down to 1, swing with 2 pirates. They need 4 blockers or they're dead.
Yeah.
The second ability is great. I mean, Vraska comes in at 6, so you can activate this twice.
Yep.
So you're killing 2 of the biggest things on the board. Hopefully, you already have some kind of board state, so that you won't have to just activate it twice. But it does take out 2 big things, and the ulti is pretty sick if you get to it. Once they're down to 1, they're really close to die.
Sure.
About as close as you can be. So.
No, I'm actually not a fan of this card.
Oh, really?
Main reason is because it's got green and black together.
Yeah.
It doesn't appear to be like an actual theme, Golgari or green-black, in the set. So, granted, you have treasure tokens in Pirates, which makes it casting a bit easier. But overall, as a first pick, if you're picking it out of a pack, I'm not saying you shouldn't take it, but it's pretty hard to build a strategy around it directly. So I feel like, while it's a good card, you might be in situations where you think it's much better than it actually is.
Do you think they've done that deliberately, though? They've put Vraska in green and black just because even though she is a pirate, if they put her in Grixis or even just like, Izzet or something, it would be, firstly, obviously away from Vraska, but it would be too powerful, within that color suite. They've tried to entice a different color combination with this Planeswalker.
I think it's just to keep her Golgari roots because she is a Gorgon, and Gorgons are generally green and black. But yeah, it kind of fits the theme because of the treasure tokens, just being able to make any other color. But I don't know. I think if it was in the actual pirate colors, it'd be a bit too strong. Yes.
Sure.
How did she get here?
What about Vona, the Butcher of Magan, and legendary creature Vampire Knight? This one I think is a very, very interesting card. You've got the Vigilance, you've got the Lifelink, but it's tap, pay 7 life, destroy target non-land permanent, obviously activate this ability only during your turn. Glad this did not activate this as a sorcery, so I do like at least there's a little bit more flexibility with it, but what do we think, guys? Is this the kind of 5-drop for 4/4 that you're going to want to be picking up pretty early? I know it's a mythic, but how do you feel like this sits in the pecking order?
I mean, pretty much every vampire has lifelink, right?
Yep.
So I don't think the 7 life is as big of a cost as you think it will be.
Yep.
Swinging once with this essentially pays more than half the cost.
Not essentially, it does. 4's greater than 3.5.
What if they block before you get...
I'm gonna let you finish, but this card is the greatest Vampire Knight of all time. So just leave it at that. Take this card every time.
It's pretty good. Yeah.
Yes.
Black and white is a bit annoying, but vampires is...
But that's the colours that they're in, though,
generally
for
it'll be
XLN.
the
So,
vampire tribe, I guess.
well, we saw with the Commander decks that came out, it was Mardu, wasn't it, for the vampires?
It was Mardu, yes.
Yeah, so it is a nice addition, I'm sure, for that deck.
But we're Sol Ring.
Deadeye Plunderers, Human Pirate for 5. Gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control, and that'll obviously most of the time be your treasure tokens. I like that for 4 mana you can create another treasure tokens. It almost replaces itself whilst also buffing. 3/3, obviously it's going to enter, but a lot of the time you should be able to get a little bit more value out of this. It is in blue and black, so it's in the Grixis colors for pirates. How do we feel about Deadeye Plunderers?
I think it's a good card.
Yep.
I mean, 5 mana, 3/3. It's a pretty respectable body. Gets +1/+1 for each other artifact you control, like you said. And in the pirate theme, you want treasure tokens.
Sure.
And in the late game, it's a good mana sink. I mean, 4 mana when you have no spells in hand, just make another, Lotus Petal and just keep ramping up for later. Maybe cast the bigger spells like another Vraska or something later on.
I mean, there's the Merfolk dude that puts a +1/+1 count on target creature, right? For 4. But this one, you're giving yourself +1/+1 and you're getting a treasure token out of it. So this card is pretty solid. It can become the biggest thing on the board pretty soon.
Yeah.
Most of the times, if you're playing pirates, I reckon you'll have like
Couple
by turn 5, maybe 2 or 3
Yep.
treasures already. So when this comes in, it's like a 5/5/6/6 already.
Sure.
So the body's fine.
What about the Hostage Taker? And this one was interesting because I think there's probably some rule clarification that maybe not everyone is aware of. So when it enters the battlefield, you have to exile target artifact or creature until Hostage Taker leaves. You may cast that card for as long as it remains exiled, and you may spend mana as though it was of any color to cast that spell. So similar to what we saw with Gonti. So Michael, how does this work in terms of the actual control of the card that you're exiling, and then that second part of the ability where when it leaves it changes back, but it doesn't always change back?
No, I think, if you go by the writing, the moment you've cast it, it's no longer exiled.
Sure.
So if it dies or leaves the battlefield, you actually get it back, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, if it dies or leaves the battlefield before you've cast it, you get the card back. But if, your opponent's played Hostage Taker.
Sure.
But if they cast that spell, you actually don't get that back because it's no longer exiled and it's on the battlefield.
Sure, so it actually does change as under your ownership once you've casted that card that you've taken.
Yeah, you're in control. You don't own the card, but you are in control.
Cool, so it does satisfy the text. What do you think, Daniel? 4 mana for a 2/3, is this something you're going to get value from?
Yeah, well, I mean, Fiend Hunter type effects are always playable, especially in Limited. I mean, you get a body, you remove a body from play, but this one has unlimited upside. I mean, you get to cast a card like we've been talking about,
Sure.
So you essentially 2 for 1 them or 1.5 them, depending on how you want to take a look at it.
Absolutely. Well, maybe this is something that you want to be taking. The Dire Fleet Captain, when it attacks, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each other attacking pirate. Is in red and black, so it's obviously in the right kind of colours. Just an uncommon for 2/2. Feel like it's got some pretty solid upside when you're playing offensively. What do you think about Direfleet Captain?
I think it's a fine card. I mean, 2 mana 2/2, it's just a regular bear with upside. But unfortunately, sometimes I feel like when you play this card, like you don't want to take it early in a draft because you have to commit to 2 different colors.
Sure.
And when this card comes around, if you're not like have enough of a pirate base, I feel like it becomes very subpar. I mean, granted, just having 2 extra pirates on the field attacking with him makes him a 4/4.
Yeah.
But aside from that, you'd have to be pretty deep into pirates, I feel.
Sure. All right, the Marauding Looter. Maybe this is another pirate that can help buff up your captain. It has the raid mechanic, so at the beginning of your end step, if you attacked with a creature, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. 4 mana, 4/3. I'd love for this to be a 4/4, but that would probably be asking for a little bit too much with Strike back in the format. Michael, what are your thoughts about the Marauding Looter?
Pretty good. Body, 4 to cast 4/3 is pretty good. And, you know, it does what pirates want, attack.
Yep.
And it benefits from that. Looting is pretty good. I don't think anyone would argue against that. You know, always loot is the answer.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know. There's not a whole bunch to say. It's just I think it's just a good card.
Yeah, especially at uncommon as well. So you're going to see these, and it's in the right kind of colors. So if you can get that tribal synergy, that's always some nice upside as well. What about the Dinosaur Lord, though? Gishath, Sun's Avatar. Colors might be a bit of a problem. It's 5 and Naya. Trample, Vigilance, Haste, and it has a horribly devastating, whenever it deals combat damage to a player, reveal that many cards from the top of your library, put any number of dinosaur creature cards from among them onto the battlefield, and surprisingly, the rest don't go back into the graveyards, they go back into your library, not onto the graveyard, in a random order. So just feel like there's almost no negatives with this card, with the exception of playing limited and having to get that third color, but we kind of saw you get some treasure tokens, help fix that mana. It is only one of each color. Is Gishath something that you would be picking up pretty close to first if you saw it in your packs? You're going to try and force dinosaurs if you see this at your pre-release?
Definitely, yes. Like, unlike all the other avatars, this one's actually surprisingly castable.
Yep.
Like, sometimes getting to triple white or even triple red is hard, but getting
one
2
of each.
colors, getting one of each is much easier, much more attainable in a lot of situations. So, I mean, that effect itself,
just the haste and vigilance as well.
It's
like
a bit of overkill, don't you think? I mean, not only do I attack you, I also block. And this guy, you get the Regisaur Alpha out, and then it's just crazy.
Well, I think without the Trample, Vigilance, and Haste, it would be significantly weaker.
Oh, I was just talking about just vigilance, like the fact that Trample and Haste, I understand, like you are paying 7
I don't
for,
have to
8 for a 7/6, but like the fact that it stays up then to block, even if you get one good swing out of this, put 2 things on the board, and then eat their biggest thing, even if you have to trade on response, you've gotten ultimate value out of this card.
Yeah, I don't know if...
Mate, he is the Sun's avatar.
Yeah.
He has to
Vigilance is
have
necessary.
all the keywords.
Yeah.
He's a legendary dinosaur avatar.
This is like Odric's Dino Rider mount. It's the
Yes.
perfect companion for him. Sky Terror, 1 red, 1 white, flying and menace, and there were some hilarious comments about, does this thing have enough evasion? 2/2 is going to be pretty difficult to take out, certainly from a creature standpoint. Is this something that you think Lightning Strike's going to be used up on a card like Sky Terror? Is the 1 red, 1 white too hard to cast? What are your thoughts?
I think it's definitely castable. You know, it's 1 red, 1 white. It's not that bad. It essentially puts them on a 10-turn clock.
Yep.
And they need 2 flyers to deal with this, or they'll have to spend some removal.
Sure.
And, you know, most of the time you'll trade your stuff for removal anyway.
Of course.
But I think it's a pretty good card. If you have more than one, you know, I think that's gonna be.
There's
a
a
huge
real
problem.
terror there.
Yeah.
That's the real terror. No,
You're gonna have big
I'm going to
problems.
disagree a little bit. I think the red and white, while it is achievable on turn 2 when you want to be dropping something like this, it becomes much of an order. Like having a mountain and a plains in play with no fixing in a set like this.
Sure.
I can see it being a bit of a problem not wanting to take this card, but you know, even on turns 3, 4, 5, it's still a
getting
decent.
value.
Yeah, I mean, it's guaranteed 2 damage in the air unless they deal with it.
Yeah, flyers are historically always strong in limited, and I'm sure Ixalan's going to be no different. But what about the Lord of the Pirates, Admiral Beckett Brass, Grixis and 1? It's a 3/3. Other pirates get +1/+1. I've got no idea how you're actually going to get the second part of the text off. At the beginning of your end step, gain control of target non-land permanent controlled by a player who was dealt combat damage by 3 or more pirates. Is this near impossible to get off in limited, let alone maybe even in standard? Like, I love the Anthem +1 +1 effect, but I just don't see you getting value from the bottom half of this card. Guys, what are our thoughts?
I think you just have to play this card as a 4-mana 3/3 Lord and just ignore the bottom half of the text. Granted, it's not the most powerful Lord because it doesn't give like evasion to your creatures or like a beneficial secondary status. But I think cards like this, you just have to take it like as a cool kind of card. I mean, everyone's been wanting pirates for EDH for a long time, so here we go.
And card is pretty hard to cast, but a lot of the pirate decks are going to be blue-black or blue-red anyway.
And they have the treasure
so
tokens.
You have treasure, so... Yeah, no, I take that back. It's actually not going to be that hard to cast. The second part's probably irrelevant most of the time. Yeah. It's pretty hard to get 3 guys through. But, some of the pirates have flying and stuff like that.
Sure. Do you think in Standard it's a effect that you will get some value from? I don't know if... I think maybe the pirates actually, personally think, look the strongest in terms of the best chance of making an impact in Standard just because of the colours that they're in. I've seen people talking about playing Grixis Pirates with a bolus like finisher and crazy ideas like that, but getting 3 through for damage, even in Standard, do you think, is this possible, pulling something like this off?
I think it's doable because everything's kind of focused towards building that second effect, right?
Sure, yeah.
And the other person needs to have something you want to steal. Like, if there's nothing you want to steal, who cares?
Well, in that case, you're just killing them, right?
Yeah, exactly. Then they're just dead. Or maybe you want to steal the Warrior Poet, the legendary Planeswalker. This one a little bit cheaper than Vraska, costs 5, just the 3 loyalty, +2, gain life equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. The 0 puts a nice 3/3 dinosaur with trample on the board. The -X ability, interesting way to trigger either enrage or just being able to get through for lethal damage by preventing creatures from being able to block. Bit of versatility with this card. I love the art, but is this actually going to see any play? Obviously the themed Ixalan Planeswalker from the set. What are our thoughts on? Is it a... How's the pronunciation on this one? It's like
Huatali,
yeah. Huali, really?
Oh.
Right, okay. There you go. Learn something new every day.
A resident expert in Ixalan.
What are our thoughts? Is this something that you're going to want to pick? Is it worth playing a Planeswalker like this?
Yes. She slices, she dices, and she wins games.
Yep.
I mean,
pretty good.
The ultimate versatility is just insane.
Sure.
I mean, clearing blockers, triggering enrage, making dinosaurs, gaining life. She does everything you want her to do.
And it protects itself.
Yeah.
2 ways.
Yeah.
Make a dude, and you can kill stuff.
Yeah. When I first saw this, I thought it was greatest life among creatures, and I was like, that could be a huge payoff. But even, like I said, if you're playing this in these colors, maybe you have the green in there for Naya, and if you can get that 6/7 life, then that's kind of pretty nuts as well. So we'll see how she fits in. Another dinosaur that might be at her aid. This is the infuriated Gladiodon. 3 red and green, has trample, but when it enters the battlefield it deals 1 damage to each other creature, so nukes tokens, triggers enrage. I really like this as a 5-mana 5/5. What are our thoughts?
I like it for those same reasons. If you're playing against vampires, you are actually just clearing that board.
Yep.
Kills a lot of pirates as well.
Yep.
Everything that you've got, all your enraged stuff goes off, but you got to remember that their enraged stuff goes off as well.
Yep.
So you do have to be careful when you play it. I guess in the dinosaur versus dinosaur matchup, this might not be as good.
Yeah.
You just have to be careful.
Well, we talked about Colossopede earlier, and this is just like, if the other card was Colossopede 2.0, this is Colossopede 3.0. I mean, trample and pings everything for 1. Yeah, this card is great.
We saw the 1/1 that leaves behind a 3/3 when it dies, so you play this and...
Combos.
Yes.
I see.
All the value, right? All right, last couple out of the multicolored cards, and we've got Tishana, the Voice of Thunder. She is the Simic legendary creature Merfolk Shaman. Power and toughness equal to the number of cards in your hand, but when you have no maximum hand size, so it's got that Reliquary Tower effect, and when it enters the battlefield, draw a card for each creature you control. It does cost 7, but how do we feel about Tishana? She's not exactly a lord, but she's a very interesting legendary creature for the Merfolk setup.
I feel this card is not what you want in draft, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I mean, by the time most board states get to 7 mana, unless the game is going terribly and no one's attacking, this card's not going to get you much value. And at that point, you might even deck yourself, because you may draw the cards, I believe.
Yes.
You have to draw the cards,
yeah.
So it puts you in a tight situation for Clock. Granted, she becomes the biggest thing on the board, but doesn't have trample, no other effects.
Well, does she become the biggest thing in the board? You know, you said late game. You're not often holding on to too many cards late game as well.
There's a lot of creatures.
But you need them to be on the battlefield, right? So like
in a board stall.
In a board stall, yeah.
But if you're not in a board stall, she's not good because you're either winning the game with a lot of creatures or you have no creatures.
Yeah.
So
you want your 7-drop to win you the game right there and then, and this is not going to do it.
Sure. What about, does this 7-drop win you the game? The Belligerent Brontodon. Each creature you control assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. Would have loved to have this with Tree of Perdition. The Doran EDH decks, I'm sure, will like to look at something like this. It's just an uncommon, a 4/6. Some of the dinosaurs don't have greater toughness than power, though, anyway, but interesting that it has this effect on there. Is this something you want to pick up for 7? How do we feel about the last of the gold bordered cards for Ixalan, guys?
Don't forget the 1/7 dinosaur from White.
Yes, that is
cost 4.
Yeah.
That's amazing with this.
This card overall is not that impressive.
No.
I mean, essentially it's a 7-mana 6/6 with upside, but it's not exactly where you want to be when you're paying 7 mana. I mean, I'd rather pay 7 mana, like wait an extra turn somehow and play, you know, your Gishath or something.
Sure.
But granted, maybe it has a home in some decks.
So there you have it, the gold bordered or the multicolored cards for the upcoming Ixalan set. Plenty of value there. Obviously some huge bombs in Regisaur Alpha and Gishath. Some very interesting cards like Admiral Beckett. A couple of Planeswalkers, so we'll see how they go in terms of making a splash, both in constructed and in the limited environments, but plenty of value. Some very interesting cards like Tashana as well, refilling your hand. Plenty of value across the board, and I think a lot of these cards, whilst probably some of them you don't want to be picking first up, once you get your color sorted, these will be some very powerful additions to the color combos, the 2 or 3 that you're playing, and I think it'll help bring some synergy and some extra power to your deck. So we've done white, black will be up next for the cards in terms of preview. Probably do a bit of an overall preview for the rest, just because we are running out of time before the new set comes out. But thank you again so much for watching. Appreciate both Daniel and Michael's time for help with this video. I've been Coops. This is the whole box and dice. Thank you again for watching. Hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you are new. Hopefully you managed to pull some of these in your Ixalan pre-release, especially that foil Gishath. Peace, everyone.